Alright, so we're going to do a little market review today and then go over what we got planned for the next week and then I can do some technical analysis on some other things, but I'm going to go over the majors right now. So the first thing we want to look at was the economic calendar here. And the previous week we had FOMC. FOMC is pretty much it's the main event for the week, and it's going to be the time of the week that the biggest move is going to happen. And so I'm going to get right into the DXY. We outlined DXY coming up and going over the breaker here. And then we've got the remaining portion of this sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency here to fill up. So that's what we've been outlining coming for the past 3 weeks. We've had this as what we want to see be hit. And let's drop into the daily. Mark out the week that just passed. So this is the week that we just closed. And as you can see, we've broken out of the breaker on the weekly chart. And DXY has just been crawling up all week. That's exactly what we wanted to see. And as long as we don't break below these candles here, we should see 108 up to 109 as our target in the weeks coming up into the end of the quarter. I'm not going to go into a lower time frame than the daily on the DXY because it's not really needed. Let's get right into the US 500. So we've been retracing up into an order block here, and then we finally swept sell side at the end of the week last week, as we outlined on it was before FOMC. So Tuesday we outlined what we wanted to see on the major here, the major stock indices. We outlined both the NQ and the ES. I specifically talked about on Tuesday that we want to see this buy side imbalance. We want to see it go below and then come back and treat it as resistance. That is exactly what we see here, and this is the target we had. The 4335. That's exactly what we wanted to see. So there's no surprises there. On Tuesday, we saw it break below the buy side imbalance, and then on the day of FOMC, we just got a big down day. And the remainder of the week was just very heavy. The reason why I chose this imbalance is because it was within an order block here, and we come up and we left it a little bit, and then just sank right back down into it and left it. And we took out the low that was created inside, or well, right outside of the imbalance. We outlined 2 weeks ago that there would be not very big moves or very much interest in the stocks until we got out of this imbalance. So this imbalance has been known for at least 2 weeks now. Let's drop down into a 4. We have the new week opening gaps. These are all new week opening gap levels. And we can see the daily levels here transposed onto the 4-hour chart. We have a big imbalance right here, south side imbalance. And if we mark it out, we can see that it was used as resistance pretty much the entire week. And then when the news driver come out, we released to the downside and went exactly and closed exactly into the level from the weekly chart that we were expecting. No, it was from the daily chart, my bad. It was this exact level that we outlined, this volume imbalance. It's what we wanted to see close through. We want to see it close through this level on Wednesday. Let's go back to the 4-hour. I just needed to mark that. So, close a little bit lower than it on Wednesday here. Created a new fair value gap. We use this to the high, to this candle's high, and this candle's low. It's the fair value gap here. We don't need to worry about this because it already closed below the volume imbalance. And the end of the day on Wednesday, we were right at the bottom of this old right at the bottom of this old new week opening gap. So we hit the levels that we were wanting to see, and let's talk about the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ has not hit the sell side that we were wanting to see yet, but it did. We did close in the same volume imbalance that we outlined. We spoke about this ahead of time. And we actually outlined it closing exactly into the volume imbalance, and that's exactly what happened. And we come up, filled the gap, and then closed lower. We took out this sell side, but we have not reached the sell side that we were wanting to see, and that's okay. We may be coming into this next week. Let's pull out the new week opening gap levels. These new week opening gap levels are fair value areas for large institutional traders. Price is brought to these levels for fair value purposes and to liquidate and introduce more liquidity or new interest in buying or selling. We have this relative sell-side imbalance is the same respective imbalance that we saw on the US 500. We banged around it all week until Wednesday. This is exactly what we wanted to see. It's exactly the same thing that happened on US 500. We closed below this imbalance from the daily chart, and we wanted to see it give resistance. This is exactly what happened. I'm going to highlight this respective imbalance as well. On Thursday, we come up, we hit the bottom of this volume imbalance here from the daily chart. We wanted to see it be used for resistance. And that's what we wanted to see. And that's what happened. Because this volume imbalance and this fair value gap was in the same area, we didn't need to see the volume imbalance be closed in. It didn't even need to come in to halfway because this fair value gap was here. Let's talk about what we want to talk about next. We can talk about Bitcoin next. So for Bitcoin, we have this monthly breaker. We talked about this monthly level months ago when we first started tapping into it. It was brought to everyone's attention that this is the breaker, and it could even come up into, there was a weekly fair value gap in this area. If it was going to do that, I think it already would have. This is a breaker because we have a low, high, lower low. So the breaker here. Excuse me. It's high, low, higher, high. And then the most recent area where institutional buying was this candle. And once we break below it and come up, and we can retest, and it can be used possibly as resistance. And so far, it's just been banging around at the level. No, this is the imbalance that was possible to be seen if there was a lot of it was pretty much the last line in the sand for bulls. If we wanted to be bullish and go past 42, it was going to need to flip this level and flip this level, but we have not seen that. On the daily, we outlined this balanced price range way back in August. We were talking about this. We were talking about this level here. And we wanted to see it reach into south side and south side here. And even sell side down at 15. So far, what we've seen happen is it come up and hit the balance price range, it took out sell side, most recent sell side here. Now we've retraced back into it, left it, so we really don't want to see this high getting taken out if we're going to go down to 15. We do not want to see this high get taken out. For the most interesting level that I saw for Bitcoin to retrace into, if we're going to need to retrace, is going to be this sell side balance here. I think this level will tell us specifically around 26,870 or so, the midpoint of this fair value gap. We're going to want to see that be respected. Ideally, it won't even go up into halfway, and then we're going to want to see it drop off. So that's what we kind of got planned for Bitcoin. I'm going to talk about what we want to see in the next week coming up for the stock indices now. Because US 500 has already taken out the sell side here, we want to see it remain heavy going into the next week. There's a sell side imbalance here, and it's already left the imbalance, so we really just want to see it remain heavy and gravitate down into this weekly imbalance. If we come back into here and start using this area as support, we will likely come back into the range from this high to this low. We can retrace into here, and then this whole range we're just going to consolidate for a while. We can see on the US 100 that there's really not any areas besides this order block here that sparks any interest. We have this new week opening gap from August 18th. This level will likely be used as resistance into the week coming up and take out the sell side and dip into this weekly imbalance. This is the respective imbalance that we see on the US 500 as well. I'm going to pop up to the weekly chart and talk about that. This imbalance is our ideal target coming into the next couple months. We can see this is the same area on the US 500. So that's what we want to see price be gravitating towards. I will talk about a little bit about Forex. We can talk about the two majors on Forex here. So we swept south side here on the British pound. And we are likely drawing into this volume imbalance here. What we do at this level is going to be critical for the British pound. Otherwise, we can start coming down even further into this imbalance. And there's some sell side liquidity here. These weekly levels are transposed onto the daily, and we can see pretty much the same thing that happened on the stock indices. We saw a similar thing happen with the majors of the Forex. The imbalance was broken below and used as resistance, and ever since then we've just trickled down, and we'll probably hit this volume imbalance on Monday. We hit this weekly south side volume imbalance, and we just trickled down ever since on the euro as well. The euro's taken out its respective south side, and here's the respective south side with the British pound. There's a redelivered rebalance here. This would be most likely area of interest. So that's what we want to see coming into the next week. And that's about it, I guess. Does anyone have any questions? Do we need to go over anything else? Do some chatting. Oh, here we go. I thought there were some comments in the Chill Zone chat. So we went over what we're expecting for the weeks coming up, and we went over our market review for the previous week. So I really don't have that much else to go over unless someone else has any questions. All right. Well, it's been another great week trading here. We've got the market delivering exactly what we want to see, and we have our target coming in for the next week. We want to see it draw down into here, and we want to see it drawing down into here, possibly even take out the low here on Monday or Tuesday. Let's see. Major news events for next week. We got some pretty big news on Thursday and on Tuesday for the dollar. Tuesday and Thursday, and FOMC member speaks on Friday. So the beginning of the week and the last 2 days of the week are going to be the most impactful for next week to expect these levels to be drawn down into. I don't think it's going to hit next week. It's possible, of course, but we just want to use this as our draw coming in for the next couple weeks. This is the biggest area where we would like to see price draw down into. And that's pretty much it for me.